Hello, and welcome to another edition of Kristen's Corner, a podcast by your state senator, Kristen Phillips-Hill. And if you are listening to this podcast in your car and you recently put gas in your vehicle, I have no doubt you have felt pain at the pump. And what a very frustrating several weeks it has been for the American people. Over the last several weeks, motorists all across our nation and right here at home in the Commonwealth, we have watched our gas prices reach new historic highs. New York County, I just filled up for $4.44 a gallon at my local Rudders. And we have watched inflation continue to creep since the start of the Biden presidency. In December, the Biden administration, they told us that inflation, it was transitory. When it was no longer transitory, we were told that it was corporate greed, according to some congressional Democrats. And now the blame it's all Putin's fault. And the question is, when will the blame game stop? And when will we start looking right here at home for some answers? And here's the problem. The latest solution being offered by the White House is to get TikTok stars to say that this is all Russia's fault for the soaring gas prices. The fact is that gas prices, along with many other products and services, were already increasing over the last year. But we all feel the pain at the pump, unless you're one of those who are privileged to drive an electric vehicle. And that's right. The Hollywood elite have said, well, if you don't like the gas prices, just go get an electric vehicle. I don't have an electric vehicle. And my guest on today's program, he doesn't drive one either. So with that, I want to welcome today's guest to the program, Senator Gene Yaw, Chairman of the Senate Environmental Resources and Energy Committee. Welcome to the program, Gene.
Great to be here, and it's great to be able to talk about energy, which is one of my, obviously, a primary concern with me.
No, and we are grateful for your leadership on this very important issue. And we've watched over the last several months, even before Russia invaded Ukraine, we've seen our gas prices, they're creeping up to levels we've never seen in this country. So in March of 2020, gas prices nationally, they were on average $2.33 a gallon. And that's according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. I and many others have said that our energy prices are skyrocketing because of our nation's blind allegiance to the Green New Deal. Here in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf unilaterally entered into a program called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, also known as RGGI. So, Senator Yaw, you have been the tip of the spear on this fight to push back against this effort by the Wolf administration's unilateral move to enter into RGGI. Can you speak about what RGGI is and what it will mean for Pennsylvanians?
Thank you, Kristen. I'm happy to speak about it. I'll tell you, though, it's a pretty complicated issue, and I'll try to make it as simple and brief as possible. The whole concept behind RGGI to start with was to reduce regional greenhouse gas. Mainly, we're talking about CO2 emissions. The governor's idea was to join 11 other states, and I don't recall all of them right off the top of my head, but we're talking about New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, most of New England, to lower greenhouse emissions. And the way that this happened is each state would set standards, but the standards then would be the subject of certain allowances approved by all of these 11 states. And for those businesses and industry that cannot meet the environmental allowances or the environmental standards, they would be allowed to purchase at auction certain allowances and then use those allowances in effect to offset or make the standards that they could not meet. And the money that was generated, which we hear much about that from the governor, would go to fund other environmental projects. The target really of this, and it fits in with exactly what you said about electric vehicles, the target is coal-fired power plants and some of the older gas plants. Now, the reason that that's really important to Pennsylvania is about 83% of our electric generation capacity comes from coal and natural gas. So, all those people that you talked about just drive an electric vehicle, I'd just like to ask them the question, where do they think the electricity comes from to charge those vehicles? I think RGGI will result in two things happening in Pennsylvania. Number one, we're going to lose thousands of trade union jobs. They're just going to be gone. All those that would be affected by closing coal-fired power plants, they're going to be lost. And the other thing, which affects everybody who uses electricity, is electric prices. Electric rates are going to go up significantly. During the budget hearing, Secretary McDonnell indicated that the expected revenue coming in on RGGI, coming into the state, would be paid by ratepayers, and that is expected to be something in the neighborhood of $410 million a year. That means there's going to be an increase in our electric rates of $410 million a year. Like, for example, over 5 years, that would be $2 billion that would be paid by our ratepayers. We would go from being an energy exporter, and I know in 2021, Pennsylvania exported more megawatt hours of electricity than any other state. And actually, the number 2 state was Alabama, and we exported 80% more electricity than what Alabama did. So what would happen is not only we lose jobs to other states, but the electric capacity that we lose would probably be picked up. There are studies on this, would be picked up by West Virginia and Ohio. So, and they're not going to be RGGI states. So in effect, we